All right, I would like to call the meeting to order. Are you all set, Peter? Are you recording? Call the meeting to order at 6:02. And the first item on the agenda is to reorganize officers, and we have to elect a chairperson, and the floor is open for nominations. I see Laura Sibilia has her hand up. Ms. Sibilia?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Rich Warner for chair.
We have a nomination for Mr. Warner. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. All in favor of electing Rich Warner as the chair, please signify by saying aye.
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 6. Any nays? Any abstentions? And the ayes have it, and Mr. Warner has been elected chair, and I would love to turn the meeting over to him.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
So our next order of business is to elect a vice chair. Rick Thorpe was our vice chair, and he unfortunately can't serve out west. He said it was too far to commute. So I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead, Laura. Laura?
Is our hand still up
Oh.
from the previous one?
Maybe.
Did you want to nominate a vice chair?
I didn't have my hand back up yet. I don't know if there's somebody from Wardsboro that wants to nominate somebody from Wardsboro.
Or somebody wants to nominate somebody from Wardsboro?
I'd be happy to nominate Kate Rideout.
Okay, so I have a nomination for Kate Rideout. Are there any other nominations?
Nominated, please.
Chad. Chad's over there. Wave your hand, Chad. He's number 15. Just
This is his first nomination.
Yay! Are there any other nominations? Were you?
No.
Okay, so if there's no other nominations, usually you instruct the clerk to cast one ballot, but we haven't had a clerk yet, so I guess we'll do all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Kate. And then last spot, I believe Dwight was our clerk. Is that correct, Dwight? You moved, Tommy.
I was and am.
Okay, so could somebody, I need a nomination for clerk.
I'd like to nominate Dwight to remain as clerk.
Okay, so Chad nominates Dwight to remain as clerk. Is there any other nominees? Hearing none, all those in favor of Dwight as clerk, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
It appears as though the ayes have it. The ayes have it. I can't. Just so everybody knows, the reason we did reorganize officers and we're not going to do everything else is technically when a new person comes on board, you're supposed to do it. We've never done it in the past, but because we've never had one of the officers not be the person that left, I just thought it would make sense to reorganize the officers. So if you went by that every time you got a new member, we would be reorganizing Wyndham Central every time we met. Go ahead, Peter.
Yes, would you introduce the new member? I don't think everybody knows. I don't know his last name.
Well, he was here at our last meeting. He was just on TV, but I'd like to welcome and thank Chad for applying to be a board member, and it was a very difficult decision. We had 3 very qualified people, and Chad was decided upon by the board to replace Rick until the next election, and we're gone. Oh, we're back. So, Chad, thank you for serving and thank you for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Could you spell the last name, please?
Yes, S-T-A-R-O.
Thank you.
Better him than me, because I would have put 2 R's in there. We ready to move on? Consent agenda. For the consent agenda, I have just the minutes of September 20th meeting. The letter from CVTSE is addressed under new business in the agenda, so it would just be the minutes of the September 20th. Did anybody have any comments, corrections?
One correction for present. Rick Dorf is not with us at the last meeting, and he's still listed as a board
Are you
member.
sure he was here in spirit?
He'll always be here in spirit. The Thorpes have never left us, but I don't know if that's a particularity, but
Oh, and I was there.
yes, you were on.
Well, you know, that's interesting.
Sorry. I'm sorry, was Kate not there?
No, Kate
I
was,
was there.
and Rick wasn't. You
Oh,
vice
I
versa.
will, I'll switch them, thanks.
See, you knew, Peter, she was gonna be the vice chair, so you just put the name wrong. Good job. Being a seer, seeing into the future. See, that was foreboding, wasn't it?
It was very foreboding. Do we need to list any other, like, because Megan came partway through, should we list that she was a member of the public that came?
Yeah. Hey, Peter, can you also add?
Megan Carroll.
Yeah, can you just spell the last name for him?
I believe, I could be wrong, C-A-R-R-O-L-L. Tammy? Yes, thumbs up from Tammy.
That's Ms. Carroll's name.
Yeah, she was also here, Peter.
She was there, but not listed or spelled wrong.
Not listed.
Okay. C-A-R-O-L-L.
C-A-R-R-O-L-L.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Yo.
If there's nothing else, then we'll move to just, we don't have to move, but we'll move on. I think, Matt, you said it, but Bill's not gonna be here tonight, even though this is his normal meeting to come. Bill's a little bit under the weather today. Members of the public, sorry folks, but I got, we have several, do we have any public, or are
We
they
do,
all,
we have a few.
are they all the teachers?
Trisha Stevens is a member of the public, Dana Cerise, Amelia Nick, and that's it.
Next, the newspaper lady.
Right.
Okay, so Dana or Tricia, do you have anything for members of the public?
No, sir, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. Tricia, you all set?
She's probably multitasking.
Okay.
All
Amelia?
set.
Oh, I'm sorry, what, Trish?
Nope, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And then, Amelia, thank you for your nice article the other day. Members?
Yep.
Members of the staff? Would any of you all like to speak? Gather not. Superintendent's report, we all got the written cabinet report? So Chad, usually what we do is, if there's something we just accept the superintendent's report as presented to us. If you have a question on something, we can pull that out, but usually we don't have them rehash what's already written. And he's not here tonight to answer them anyway, so then we make Matt and Tammy answer them, because they're like an extension of Bill.
Right.
So is everybody good with the superintendent's report? No questions in that? Seeing none, let's go on to the WCSU Retreat update. Bill, update that. So I guess I have to update it. Matt, I'm gonna let you update it. You were there too.
Yeah.
Is that putting you on the spot too much?
Well, I want to look back at what the agenda was and refresh my memory, which I can do. Give me a second.
Yeah, I don't, let's, so basically at the retreat, I think, Matt, fill in the blanks.
Pull it up on your phone.
We had a brief meal, which was really good for those of you that missed it. Good food. We had an we did, oh yes, what did we do? We did
Waiting
some
study.
financial reviews, with the COVID money coming in and what's been spent so far. We had a presentation on the waiting study with Mark, who was there virtually, and Dan and Doug. And Emily Long said a few comments. She was there virtually also. We had a little bit of an issue with the connectivity in Marlboro. It wasn't to the other people, it was our connectivity in there. Poor Tammy was trying to speak and she just froze there for a long time.
I kept going.
She kept talking, we didn't hear her. But, so then after we voted to donate $3,000, I believe, to the CVTSE, we also then had presentations by each board and their administrator, with the poor exception for Allison Young, who had to do Wyndham's all by herself, or had to do Stratton's all by herself because she did not have an administrator with her. And Matt and I went last for River Valley, so they saved the best for last. And I spoke first, so we even saved the bestest for last. So Matt and Tammy got to speak after me. And we just kind of updated everybody on where the different avenues were with the board. And I think the biggest takeaway I have is it seemed to be a lot of good stuff, with the exception of Wyndham's going through a vote to close the school, which is not really good stuff. They had a vote by a difference of 2 to close the school, so there's going to be a revote this coming month in October, I believe. Matt, can you think of anything else?
Let's see, you talked a little bit about long-time employee retirement
Yeah, that's going to come up at the next meeting.
and a little bit about school choice across WCSU.
Yes.
And let's see, early childhood special ed research requested. You talked about the letter, the Coalition for Student Equity, and then there was a VHI WCSU vote. You recall that?
Yeah, we voted to allow Dan to represent
Right.
us at the VHI.
And I think that was all. The policy committee had a couple of policies, travel policy to warn.
We warned the mileage policy, but we didn't the other one. Mark and Allison and I worked on that with Bill, but we just kind of ran out of time. So
The bylaws.
the bylaws, that was under policy review.
That's all I got.
Mark, can you think of anything else?
No, I didn't get to have a glass of wine, so.
Okay, Peter, can you make sure that's in the minutes that Mark didn't get his glass of wine at the retreat? There you go, Mark. It'll be there forever and ever. If there's nothing else, I'll move on then to the CVTSE request. Mark, did everybody get to see the letter dated September 27th? It all should have been in your packet. If anybody,
Yes.
does anybody want me to read it, or can we just have a discussion about it?
We can discuss.
Okay. Mark, do you want to just summarize it?
Yeah, the gist of it is the board asked me to contact all the members who had previously donated to the organization because we, at the time, were going to run out of funds by the end of this year. Because WCSU donated an additional $3,000 and Rutland City donated an additional $3,000. We now have enough to get us through January. But in order for us to continue our advocacy work, you're going to need additional funds. And just so you know, I don't know the exact percentage, it's either 99 or 99.5% of all the donations that come in go directly towards our advocacy work. I don't get paid, board members don't get any type of stipends, and we have no other employees. So we are asking for this board to consider an additional donation to help us through the legislative session.
And Mark, what are they recommending we donate? There's nothing in there, is there?
No, RVUSD donated $3,000 last time, which was in June, I believe. The range has been from 500, which came from a small district up north, to 5,000, well, now 6,000, WCSU and Rutland City. Before that, it had been 5,000 from Burlington.
And just so everybody knows, why we're even discussing this is, their advocacy along with, the town of Dover's, people, we were able to get for a 2-year moratorium on the excess spending penalty. That saved the river valleys and I believe every school in the WCSU thousands of dollars, several thousands of dollars, probably upwards of $100,000. So it is kind of really a drop in the hat when you compare it to what it saved us and what it saved us on the tax rate.
So that moratorium saved us 12 cents on our tax rate. West River was a little bit higher at 16 cents.
Yeah, except 11 cents, if you want, we'll donate 11 cents, I just don't think it's a good number.
11 cents per $100 of assessed value, sure, we'll take that.
Yeah, no. So anyways, does there anybody like to, go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I just wanted to speak in support of this. The town of Dover has led for decades in this fight, and the town has a parallel effort, which is very important going on. By design, these two efforts work very well together. This particular effort is helping to connect bodies across the state, which is something that has been challenging in the last 20 years as we have tried to defend our kids and our taxpayers. In addition, I would say that Leonine has a pretty exemplary person on this, a younger kind of go-getter who has really been exceptional in the State House and really helpful. So I would definitely speak in support of this. I think it's an important parallel to the work that Dover is doing. And I'm not aware of what condition our budget is in or if it is warranted, Mr. Chair, but if we're able to go to the max, I would support that. If we're only able to do what we did last year, I would also support that. Thank you.
So I'm not sure if we heard a motion in there.
I don't want to move the amount because I'm not sure if it's going to be, well, I'm going to move it and then I'm sure you'll let me know if it's not okay. I move that we support at $5,000 through, is there a time period through May of 2022?
Mark, I think that if you're okay, we're hoping that, the end of May, June, that it's all settled and we don't have to ever support it again. But I believe that what Mark had told us at the Wyndham Central was this was going to be the last request we hope for this time around, that should fund us through this legislative session. Is that correct, Mark?
That is not correct.
Okay.
Doug said that. I did not say that. We hope not to have any additional requests. And the goal, obviously, is to get acceptable legislation signed by the end of this session, in which case we shouldn't need anything further. But I'm not going to make a promise that I can't keep, especially since it would be the board that would make that decision, not myself. But I would anticipate this would be the last request that we send out to River Valleys.
So I did make a motion, Mr. Chair.
No, I know, I was just wondering if you want to say anything after Mark said his thing. I wasn't sure if that's why your hand was still up. Dwight?
Oh, no, my hand's up because I'm driving and I can't maneuver.
Dwight or Kate or Chad, you have any comments?
You skip Rich?
I just
Go ahead, Dwight.
had a question, but really for Mark. The letter states there are 20 school districts that belong to the coalition. Do you know how many of those 20 have donated to the cause?
We actually have 23 now. Cabot just joined, and 11, I believe. We have letters going out to the other districts as well. 2 of them are going to be voting this month to make donations. We did not make donations or membership dues a contingency of membership on purpose, because we didn't want to exclude members, districts. On the other hand, I'm trying very hard to spread the pain.
One other question, I guess, is the donation, if we were to make it tonight, would that be still on this year's budget, or would it be the following? It would be the same fiscal year?
It'd be this year. The other one should have been on last fiscal year because we made that in June.
Okay.
So,
I guess that's all I had.
Was there a second?
What was that, Peter?
Was there a second to this motion, which is in discussion?
not yet.
Not yet, because we never got that far. Before we go further, would somebody like to second this motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so Kate seconds Peter. Then we'll let you speak next.
So it seems like this has a pretty good return on investment as in terms of the spend. I mean, if we spent, $3,000 last year and it saved us tens of thousands, that seems like a really good return on spend. Is this something that we have in the budget this year that available? Like, does that make sense for us to spend this money this year?
So I can't tell you exactly what we have. Lori could, but I don't. It's such a minute amount. We're a multi-million-dollar budget, $5,000. I'm sure we can find it somewhere. And if we wind up next year being over budget when we go to the town, then we could make it up net. But I don't see it being a huge issue right now. If we were looking to spend $50,000 or $500,000, I would definitely, but 5,000 is a pretty minute amount of money.
No comment. I think that, primarily understanding that it is doable first is paramount. So it sounds like that is something that we can accomplish as a board, and it will have a better effect for the students.
Yeah, I mean, we should, because the excess spending penalty was a 2-year, we'll benefit from it again next year too. So if at the end of the year we see that, we're $5,000 over budget, we can discuss that at the school district meeting and make sure we take care of that. Hey, Lori. Lori's up there. Oh, Greg is here too, Greg Frost. Is there any other discussion? Are you guys ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any nays? And any abstentions?
Yes, I will abstain.
Okay, because it's not a unanimous vote, I gotta do a roll call vote. So Dwight, I'm gonna start with you.
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mark?
Abstain.
Okay, so we have 4 ayes and abstention. The chair's vote will go with the majority. So it's 5 ayes to 1 abstention. So the motion carries. Lori, do we need to do something to get the check cut, or are you okay with just the minutes?
I'll send her an invoice.
I was gonna say, Mark sends me a very nice invoice, which is perfect when we do a PO and it's all set.
Okay, thank you, guys. Moving right
Thank you,
along.
everyone.
Long then, I see why Greg is here and Lori. Budget building for FY '23. So we're gonna dedicate the October 18th meeting to pre-budget planning. And we're gonna create a list of items to discuss on October 18th, discussion and action. Lori, you wanna talk first?
I'm not sure what to talk about, but I'm happy to talk about how we start the budgeting process. Is that helpful?
Sure. We've got a new member, so this is his first go around.
Sure. So typically we start the budgeting process right around now, October, November, and we usually start with WCSU's budget, which WCSU flows through to all of the district budgets. So that's typically the one we start with, but really simultaneously we're starting with all the other districts as well. We are going to be looking at, Greg and I are going to be meeting to sort of set up a game plan for the capital and also operational budgets. And I also will set up a time to meet with both Matt and Tammy. We did that. We had at least 2 or 3 meetings, I think, last year before we present a first draft to the board. But happy to take any direction from the board as to what they would like to see, if they would like to see different items broken out further than I typically break out, and anything, just let us know now.
Do you guys have any specifics?
Not specifically.
Mark, Laura, or Dwight?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me, Richard?
Yep, go ahead.
I would just, Lori, I would like to see the ESSER funds, if that's possible, broken out, particularly by years. I know that's, yeah. Is that enough, or do you need more?
No, that's perfectly fine. I will say that we did go over the ESSER monies at the WCSU. Do you want me to send you the documents that we had there? Because some of it gets a little confusing with ESSER money, because some of it is spent completely at the SU level, and then some has been sub-granted out to the districts.
So I would love to have that, yes. But
Okay.
I'm interested in, when we're looking at our budget, I'm assuming we'll have funds flowing into our budget, ESSER funds. So just wanting to understand, are they going to be attached to specific line items, or is it just going to be a revenue entry?
No, it's its own budget. It'll have a revenue that is basically the sub-grant revenue from the SU, and then it will have expenses. It's its own fund and tracked completely separately from the general.
Oh, okay, so then it's fine. So you're already doing that then. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Lori, I thought in your presentation, when you were doing that, did we have the graphs and stuff on the screen, or were you just you had handed them out? I can't recall.
I think we determined that we couldn't have them on the screen and have the people on the screen, so it was just the handout. And I believe it was sent out email too, so I was hoping that people who were on the screen did have a copy of it. And Mark is saying, yes, he did. So
Okay.
it wasn't on the screen, though.
So just those of you that couldn't make that meeting, if you have any question about what the ESSER funds did for us, I really suggest you watch a recording with that email that Bill sent out prior to the WCSU meeting. And Chad, I don't know if you got it or
I
not.
don't think so.
Okay. Can you make sure Chad gets that, just so we can look at it? Lori did a really good job in explaining how the ESSER funds worked. Mark, I mean, you were there. Were you able to follow it pretty well?
Yeah, I could follow it very well, actually. I thought you did a great job.
So I think if you take that handout and just watch that section of the video, and it was one of the first things we did in the meeting, I think you guys, I think it'll help a lot, Laura, understand, you know, what the plans, what's happened to ESSER funds so far, and what some of the plans going down the road are. Go ahead, Lori.
And I'm happy, Laura, to go through it with you, because I know that you need it for, you know, legislative purposes as well. So if you want to set up a time, I'm happy to do that.
Thanks, Lori. I don't know if you can hear me right now or if I'm in a bad spot, but I think I explained at the last meeting, my concern is really just wanting to make sure I understand. You know, there was a lot of discussion about some thoughts from legislators that those funds were available to direct spending on and to offset, to just do a bunch of different things, or direct mandates. I think I mentioned that last time. So that's really the nature of my inquiry, just wanting to make sure that I'm clear on how we're doing that, and how available or not available those are for redirection. Thank you. I'm good.
Lori, I don't know if I'm going to put you on the spot or not, but can you just, I think with the ESSER funds, especially since Chad's here and this is his first meeting, maybe we can confuse him even worse than he probably already is. Can you just do the 2-minute dog and pony show about the ESSER funds, what we used it for so far, and what the kind of the plans are going forward, just so those people that weren't at the meeting last week could hear it too?
Sure can. So I have to start back before ESSER funds, but you know, when the pandemic hit, the first federal funds that came out were COVID relief funds, CRF funds, and those were used mainly for operations, sanitation, more custodial staff, anything to do with, you know, getting the kids, keeping the kids in the building, getting them back in the building. And so those funds came in quickly and went out quickly. That was about, for our SU, roughly around $630,000. Then came in ESSER 1. And ESSER 1 actually came in also pretty quickly. ESSER 1 was about roughly $300,000 for our SU. That was spent mainly at the SU level on, again, continuation of, you know, additional custodial staff, sanitation, and then we started using it also for continuity of learning and learning loss, and starting to invest in those specific needs. ESSER 2 was about $1 million, roughly $1 million, and that is actually being spent now. Has been spent over the summer, will continue to be spent through 2023. And that is mainly focused on addressing learning loss and mental health services. Those were the two largest areas, and continuity of learning as well. And then We have ESSER 3, which is also known as ARP ESSER, American Recovery Plan, I believe it's called, or Rescue or Recovery. And that is, again, roughly about $2 million. And we have not allocated any funds to any of the districts or to any of the eligible items that you can spend the money on, because we need to do a, I'm not going to get this right, basically a public, what do I want to say, public comment time is what we need to do before we can allocate any of that money. So there were specific eligible areas, like I said, learning loss, mental health services, continuity of learning, and then, there was sanitation, there was construction, that type of thing. So there was eligible costs, and so they're all in a category of how we spent it. And if you look back on the WCSU meeting, you will see that the graphs show you what percent of the money we were spending on these different allowable uses. So that is the probably 2.5 minute.
So Lori,
Yes.
the things that we specifically spent in River Valleys, wasn't a lot of the grant funds used towards our ventilation repairs?
So yeah, I didn't mention that. That was CRF funding, and that was the HVAC CRF, which was done through Efficiency Vermont.
Okay.
So yes, that was all last year. There is more money, supposedly, and Greg can probably fill us in a little bit more, to complete that work, but it's basically been in a holding pattern for months now. So we're not sure when that money will come in. But yeah, for River Valleys, that was around $250,000 of HVAC, federally funded HVAC work.
And then also the car for the food service?
Yes, all those happened so long ago now. That is correct. The CRF Child Nutrition Equipment Grant, we were able to purchase the River Valley's food service vehicle to basically go back and forth between Dover and Wardsboro.
I mean, those are just two of the really big chunks that came to mind that I thought could help people understand that we just didn't, it was more than just spend the money on a short-term thing. It was some long-term solutions, so.
Yeah, and I think Matt and Tammy could probably, fill you in a little bit more about the ESSER funds for this summer. There was some summer programming that was paid for by ESSER funds for River Valley specifically. So, it's really, we're using a lot of the money towards addressing learning loss and directly for the students, so.
So hopefully, Lori, you're all good?
Good.
Mark or Dwight?
Nothing yet. I mean, I'm sure future meetings, nothing right now.
Dwight, are you all set, sir?
All set, sounds good.
Okay, so Lori, the only thing I'd like to know, and again, we went through the last couple of years, telling the voters that we weren't sure where we stood because of the audits and stuff. So I'm just hoping that we can have a real good understanding of what we have in reserves and those special capital funds that we kind of set aside. And I was also really hoping to do a abbreviated graph of, where we're spending the capital funds, like what we plan on spending each year, not each individual item, but just the bulk number so we can show people and how much we need to fund and how much we're going to carry forward. And do that for the transportation, the vehicle budget and the building one. And the audits are being done earlier this year. You're having all the audits done, so we should probably get them before we have to go to a vote. on the budget and what we're presenting to the voters, correct?
I really hope so. They were here all last week and the week prior to that. We were prepping for them. I expect to have it certainly before River Valleys goes to vote. I have worked with the auditors now. This is our second or third year, so I'm getting a good feel for if my numbers, that I presented to them are going to hold, and we're looking good. I really feel much more confident in the numbers than last year. So I think that coming into the first round of the budget, we'll have a really good sense of what is in reserves for operational reserves, and then what is capital reserve, and so on.
Okay, thank you, Lori. And Chad, just so you know, what we usually do is we look at expenditures first, and then we usually wait till the end of it to see what it's gonna cost to raise, because we never really know until the legislature sets a lot of their numbers. And if you took what we had in January of last year, our tax rate would have been over $2. Lori, she's got a good memory, I don't, but it was really, really high. And everybody gets nervous, and I'm like, we gotta wait until it gets close to the end of the legislature. And we actually only came in a little bit higher than we were the previous year because of a lot of things that happened, but, which if we'd gotten in January or February, it wouldn't have looked so good. So usually we don't get too nervous about how much it's gonna cost until we're a little further down the process. And our motto has always kind of been is we wanna look at an educationally sound budget first and not just say that, well, we need to cut the budget. So just, cut and slice. And, we let them usually tell us what we need, and then we see if we can afford it. Okay, so if there's nothing else on the budget and create a list of items, Lori, just anything that you see that is new to this year, or anything that should be a red flag for us. And I think maybe if we can just see kind of where we are year to date, and I think that would be a good review for us too. And like where we finished last year. I know we couldn't hire enough people, and I think we're having the same problem this year. So that also gave us a little bit of a surplus, but I think that would be all good information too for next meeting. Because I think if I remember right, you're not coming to the next meeting, you're gonna have Bill do it with us, correct?
I'm not sure. Do we have a West River meeting? I have to look at the calendar, but the last meeting that I came to for River Valleys, I did present you with fiscal year 21's financials. So that gave you basically, what was the surplus for the year, what is going to be moved into reserve. So you do have that information, but I will bring or send with Bill fiscal year 22 year to date next time.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Perfect.
Okay.
And then, is there any other new business from anybody? If there's no new business, I'm gonna go to old business, but I'm gonna skip around a little. I'd like to just do the update on Dover roof repair while Lori's still here, and Greg and Matt, but I'm gonna let you start it, Matt.
Sure. So I think Greg has actually been looking into having the roof inspected. So he's working on scheduling that, and just to remind folks, we've had a couple of leaks, but nothing catastrophic. So maybe I'll just pass it over to Greg to talk about the inspection and what he's thinking.
Yeah, sure. So basically, there was the leak around one of the unit ventilators, which we struggled to coordinate with Alliance to have the Bennington, I think it was Bennington Roofing, come look at it. So we ended up, just to get it done so that it would stop ruining the ceiling tile inside, we just had Brattleboro Roofing do it, and Alliance is actually going to cover the cost of it. And so it just kind of got people talking about the status of the roof there. And so I said, well, rather than jump around and try and figure out what we're going to do, let's just let's have somebody come in and some Dan from Brattleboro Roofing will come in, and they'll walk over the whole thing with us, and they'll walk us through, and they'll be able to estimate roughly how long stuff's been there, and, you know, the status of it, and just kind of look at it and say, okay, hey, yeah, this looks good, you've got some more life, or hey, you've really got to think about tearing this up and redoing it. And then, you know, he'll definitely give us a ballpark number or something to at least budget for, type of thing.
So I can tell you how long the roof's been there.
Sure.
I mean, because right when Act 60 came in, we did a new roof before Act 60 because we didn't think we could afford it afterwards on the old part of the building, and the new part of the building is the original roof from the addition. So if you look at the big plaque, the brass plaque inside the entryway to the addition, they'll tell you what year that was done.
Okay, perfect. My assumption is you're probably outside of 25 years.
We're pushing 25, yeah.
Yeah. Which, you know, puts you right on the edge. Most rubber has a lifespan of about 25. You can definitely get more out of it as long as seams are in good shape, you know. So it could be something where, you know, you just need to do a really good thorough seam replacement and spend, you know, 10, 15,000, or it might be a, you know, if you're tearing off rubber and laying down new rubber, you're probably looking at, you know, depending on the exact square footage, you know,
200.
50s. Yeah, exactly. A lot more, you know.
So I do know we took care of all the asbestos, and the addition is after asbestos when they replaced the roof on the original building, so we should all be good there. So that's a big plus. Yep. And we were told a 20-year roof when we did it, so I know we're not gonna. But the only other thing they told us is that it was like a mirror, and once the roofing starts breaking down in any one spot, not seams or penetrations, but the general roof itself, is then you should plan within the next year to replace the whole roof. Was kind of what we had been told last time.
Oh, great. Thank you for the history on that. It helps a lot. There's not enough history in these buildings I'm going into, historical knowledge of a lot of these situations I'm walking into. So thanks, I appreciate it.
There should be a folder, because we had a clerk of the works.
I think there is a folder.
Okay. Yeah, I think, though, when you get up there, there should be a folder on that roof and the material we used and whatnot.
Okay.
We'd hired a clerk
Matt
of
and
the
I haven't
works.
had a chance to catch up, so.
Okay.
We will definitely do that before that October 18th meeting.
But it sounds good that it was just, the leak was caused by something with the ventilation, so it doesn't sound like it was just the roof breaking down. So I think that's what people were concerned about and why we put this on the agenda. So is everybody good with that? Mark, Tammy's here. Mark, Laura, or Dwight? Okay. Lori, unless you had something else, or Greg, you did, I think, you know, you guys can leave us.
Good to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
night, everyone. Thank you.
Hey, Lori, I'm going to come over tomorrow morning. What time's good?
Let me check. I'm not in the office tomorrow. Let me make sure before you come. I'll send you an email that the notary is there.
Okay, if not, because I can also sign the pay warrants too then, if you have them.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Rich, if you need a notary, I'm one.
No, they have the paperwork I need to sign though. So you'd have to go to Wyndham Central with me. It's over there, it's not here.
Peter has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Peter, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Is Tammy not attending?
No, Tammy's here.
Okay, and is Samantha Bobat?
She's on the phone.
Is that?
Samantha's iPhone is Samantha Bobat.
We lost
Thank you.
some people.
Yeah, it's me, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go back in old business to school updates during COVID, so why don't we turn it over to you guys?
I can just say that Wardsboro is happily back in person after a week of learning at home due to some COVID exposure. So all of our students were back last Monday. which was earlier than expected for our 3rd and 4th grade group, and we're rocking and rolling now.
How was it earlier? How did you pull that off?
We were fortunate to have negative tests come in that Friday, and we made the decision Friday afternoon to reopen on Monday. So the spread was at school minimal, if any, which is great.
Could you guys move a microphone closer to Tammy?
Is that the mic there?
These guys.
I'll talk more into the microphone next time, Mark. Is that better?
I think it's easy to do.
Mark, could you hear okay? Could everybody on TV hear? Or do you need Tammy to repeat it?
I just didn't hear the last part of the conversation. It sounded like it was between Tammy and you, Rich.
No, I just asked how come it was earlier than expected to return, and Tammy said because they got negative test results on Friday.
Great, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Anybody else up there in TV land?
Dover's been okay. We've been fortunate to avoid any cases so far, so find some wood and knock on it. We were informed by our WCSU nurse and COVID coordinator that the state is working on some test-to-stay programs that might help us keep the kids in school. We are worried a little bit about staffing with that because we don't know the details at this point, but I think the idea of having the testing is, we're excited about that. And anything else to add?
No, I think I agree with Matt as far as the test-to-stay program would require a lot of manpower, it sounds like, and we are short a school nurse at this time, so we're really, we've been banking on our 2 school nurses over in the West River district who have been extremely helpful. However, with the program that is going to be required for the test-to-stay, it will take extra manpower. So I am concerned about that.
What are the credentials that a person needs to help facilitate that program?
I believe there's a training that they would have to take and some waivers that need to be signed in order for that to happen.
So, just so you guys all know, I think, Mark, you may remember Matt and Tammy, tell me if I got it wrong, but I think at Wyndham Central, isn't the VSBA and the Principals Association, the Superintendent's Association, writing a letter to the commissioner to request assistance? Because if you go to the test to stay, it's going to be a real burden on the schools. And so there is something in the works, or they're trying to get something in the works to help us with that?
Yeah, the professional organizations are writing letters to the agency to support the idea, but also, to make sure that they understand that it's going to take a lot of people to do it, that at the moment the staffing is short everywhere, substitutes and regular employees, particularly healthcare staff. So yeah, the organizations are writing in support of helping with resources for that.
And I thought it was very interesting, those of you that, Mark, I don't know if you could hear it that well, but the Marlboro principal spoke that he, during a couple-week period, out of 20 some odd professional staff, had 7 or 8 absent, like a third. So, what staff we have there is being I don't think we've been anywhere near as bad.
We've been very fortunate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, that's something he was dealing with, and if he had to turn a staff member into that. So that was one of the other reasons for trying to push more help from the state on that. That everybody thought the idea was really good, it's just how you can pull it off. So, that it on COVID, guys?
So
That's it.
Anything, any questions? No? Hey, any questions on COVID from the audience up there? TV land?
No.
Head shaking, no's. Okay, then let's go on to waiting study task force update, Mark. You want to do that one, buddy?
Sure. So the task force meets again on Friday. this Friday. I believe I sent everybody an email about the public hearing, which is scheduled, it's been rescheduled for October 29th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., I believe. There are approximately 50 spots available, or they opened up 50 spots, as compared to the first public hearing where they opened up 40. We are asking people to register as soon as possible, so that the spots are taken up by those of us who are pro implementation of the weights. Task force itself is probably going to be starting to make some decisions this Friday or the meeting following, which is October 20th. They are, my guess would be they're looking at some sort of combination of categorical aid, likely for ELL, and weights for poverty, rurality, and sparsity, although I'm not so sure that they're going to go with the actual weights that were recommended in the weighting study report. And part of the reason we were asking, CVTSE was asking for funds is because we believe we're going to have to do a lot of advocating to get the task force to put together their report and proposed legislation in such a manner that it's going to truly benefit the state rather than harm it, quite honestly.
Hey, Mark, you said that they were going to do a categorical grant for English language learners and then weights, and you said three things, and I didn't quite catch the middle one. I thought you said morality.
No, if we could legislate morality, I think we'd be in a much better shape. And I'm not saying they aren't going to do categorical aid for ELL. That just seems to be how they're leaning right now. The others are poverty, which is probably what you heard as morality, but poverty, small schools, which would replace the existing small schools grants, and sparsity.
No, I heard the poverty, I heard the last one. It was the middle one, I wasn't sure what it was.
All those.
Okay.
Would have been rurality, which they would
Yes.
add, and I can
Okay.
understand that.
Any, Laura, you want to throw anything in?
Yeah, I think it's important that we, if we haven't touched on it, and even if we have, that we continue to hammer home. With Act 60, there was a formula that was devised to ensure equity in access to resources, the resources that the state, we put in place this non-homestead, this statewide property tax. So the formula that determines equity is, relies on weights. Equity has been determined to be per pupil spending, and differences in cost to educate different types of students are adjusted through weights. So when we correct the weights, what will happen is Vermont will see a pretty significant increase in the number of equalized pupils, because we're weighting some students more, particularly students in poverty. That will, if all things remain the same, budgets, that will drop the per pupil spending significantly. The excess spending penalty, which, as you've noted several times, Rich, we worked really hard to get paused to stop harming underweighted districts. That needs to come back in play. It's actually the ceiling for per pupil spending. Without it, there's really no governor on how much districts can spend. So if the excess spending threshold penalty comes back with this increase in equalized pupils and this decrease in per pupil spending, we should not see a change in taxes. What we should see is some of our overweighted districts having to make some different spending decisions. And, I've been working, helping, encouraging some key legislators to really think about how we can smooth that transition out. And I know that those smoothing conversations are ongoing. The alternative is if we don't want if you do not want the overweighted districts to have to alter their behavior, you can try and correct the injustice that has happened to these rural and poor districts for the last 2 decades by adding categorical aid. And categorical aid, the Joint Fiscal Office has testified that is outside of the equity formula. What that means is we are bringing in we're saying we need more money, and it'll be a significant amount of money. And really, there's only 2 rationales that I've heard for doing that. Well, there's only one really that I've heard. That one is accountability. So we want to make sure we don't trust districts to make good spending decisions, these poor and rural districts. So we're going to make a categorical aid and tell them how to spend the money so that we have equity for students. The other reason is, of course, that our wealthiest and largest districts will be looking at some pretty significant budgetary pressures if there are no accommodations made. And of course, a tri-partisan group of legislators proposed legislation that looked to make a lot of accommodations and try and reduce the shocks. So I'm really hopeful that we will not see categorical aid, and I'm really hopeful that we will see. That we will see the weights funded appropriately. Discussion about altering the weights, picking and choosing the weights. If the task force comes forward with something like that, I certainly hope they have something as well justified as the peer-reviewed study from Rutgers and UVM that the legislature asked for. So that's it.
So, Laura, I gotta tell you, it really bothers me that we can't trust these districts to know how to spend the money, and what are they gonna do with the money if we correct the weights? Hasn't anybody said, what about all those districts for 20 years that had more money than they should have? I mean, has that ever been brought up? And
yeah.
And the category.
You mean like the study that we did, Richard? You mean like the analysis that we paid for over the years? The chart of accounts that we've asked for? The accountability we've been trying for the last 2 decades, like that?
Yeah, Mark has his hand up too. He wants to answer that one.
No, you guys can just that discussion. Something else.
Okay, well, I have 2 other points I want to make to what Laura said, and then Mark, if you're okay. My other concern is I've never ever yet heard somebody from Vermont stand up and say at any kind of meeting that I don't think I pay enough in taxes. I want to pay more in taxes. So trying to correct it with the categorical grants that are going to raise taxes is totally against what we've been trying to do from day one. Makes no sense at all to me. And the third part of it is we've had categorical grants before, and they've never worked. And then I do agree though that with Act 60 there was a lot of pain that was going to be caused to 25 districts, of which we were one of them. So there was a phase-in period to let everybody get their houses in order, and I think that is a very appropriate thing. But I think it should be set up just the way the Act 60 phase-in was set up. And it depends how much your taxes have to go up because of that to be phased in. And I think that would be a really good model. If it was good enough back 20 years ago for those 25 or 30 towns. It should be good enough for these towns that have to do that. So it's not even like they say we have to spend a lot of time and effort investigating that. We've already done it. It's historical. So there it is. Just do it again. Mark.
So I'm going to work my way backwards. The Tri-Partisan Legislation that Laura was talking about was 854 that she had submitted last session. It does exactly what Rich just said, and it takes into account the amount of taxes would be going up, as well as, I believe it was a 3-year phase-in period, if I remember correctly. The other thing that we are advocating for is, as we've been hearing legislators say for a while now, there's a lot of money coming into the education system, a lot of federal money coming into the education system. So we are suggesting that some of those federal funds be used to help limit the immediate pain of some of those overweight districts that are going to have to change their spending habits or raise taxes. One of the concerns that we have is Public Assets Institute, which is advocating for categorical aid. I think CEO was chairman of the Ways and Means Committee when Act 60 came into place. So we're kind of seeing this as him defending his legacy. That's one of the reasons that we are asking people, especially people who did not give public comment on September 8th, to register now and give public comment on October 29th, because we don't want those slots being taken up by Public Assets Institute, because they are going to say the exact opposite of what we're all saying.
Mark, I just want to interrupt really briefly. I'm sorry, Rich, if you would just let me. I don't think we want to prevent Public Assets Institute from testifying, but what I would say is they've had the opportunity to testify many times and have been called in as experts many times to the Ways and Means Committee and to the task force. And so, of course, anyone who wants to testify should be able to testify. But the voices who have not been heard and who have not been asked to testify, I think is what Mark and I are suggesting, really. We want to see those folks come in.
Okay.
And I'd love to see members of this board give some public comment on the 29th. I had a couple other small things, but I didn't write them down, so I don't remember what they were. So I will yield the floor to whomever.
Thank you, Mark. Hold on to that last thought too, because I got, not the ones you forgot, but the last one you mentioned. Dwight, are you all good? Do you have any comments?
I'm just kind of curious. I know there's been some talk about some of the, some of the COVID funds easing some of the pressures on some of the districts. Is there any more talk of that, or that's kind of still out there? It's just a possibility.
No,
They're
ESSER funds. Go ahead, Laura.
So in addition to a lot of the federal funds that have come in, and also in part because of a lot of the federal funds that have come in, the state of Vermont has been running some pretty gigantic surpluses. There's a lot of desire to use a lot of those one-time funds for pension fixes. But these two issues, the pension issue and the waiting issue, I expect will be pretty closely tied together, and those funds could be used to help.
Great, thank you.
So if there's nobody else, what I did is over the weekend I signed up to be a speaker on that thing on the 29th. but I signed up as River Valleys. And we, as River Valley board members, don't have any authority unless we act, with the authority of the board and/or in a board meeting. So what I was gonna ask is that, if somebody doesn't mind, to make a motion to allow me to speak on behalf of River Valleys at the meeting, and then I can state that, and I think that, carries a little bit more weight. I'm not speaking as myself, but I'm speaking as the chairman of the River Valley Group. And what I plan to do is I started, because it takes me forever to write something, and they want like 3 minutes worth of testimony, and we can't ad lib. I'm gonna write it up and bring it to the next meeting to just have, make sure that, that it is definitely something that we can all agree to. So I was hoping to do that, and I was gonna use that as part of the opening, by a unanimous vote of our board, I'm here to speak on behalf of River Valleys, and this is what I have to say.
I think the write-up would be a really great thing, and.
Oh, no, yeah, I would definitely bring it.
Then we'll review it and do it next time.
Okay, well, I want to because I feel bad about doing that, I want you guys to at least give me a vote now that allow me to do that, that the board approves what's presented. Be great with that.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we review and that we allow Rich to bring forth a statement next time that we can review, so that he can represent River Valley School Board at the meeting on October 29th.
Seconded?
Okay, so we have a motion by Kate and a second by Chad. Are you guys all set, ready to vote? Any comments, discussion? Go ahead, Mark.
Do you accept the friendly amendment to strike the very first part that we're just authorized to speak as board chair representing the board at the October 29th public hearing?
So you're amending that we go ahead and just give full permission right now?
Yeah, we all know Rich. He's gonna bring it to the board. I would just take it out of the motion.
Okay.
So you'll amend your motion?
I will amend my motion based on Mark's feedback. Does that make sense, Peter?
Yeah, may I suggest some language?
Yes, please.
Move to authorize the chair to speak on behalf of the River Valleys Unified District School Board to the Waiting Study Task Force, or whatever the heck it's called, on October 29th in the public hearing.
Peter, I'll email you with the whole task force name. It's a long one.
Thanks.
Are you okay with that, Kate?
I accept Peter's edits.
Chad?
And thank you.
Are you okay with that second? Okay, does everybody know what we're voting on? Laura, do you have a comment?
Yeah, but she can't turn it on and off while she's driving, so it doesn't always work.
Okay, if there's no other comments or discussion.
Sorry,
Oh.
Sorry, Richard, I thought I was muted. I'm sorry I wasn't muted about your comment. So are we authorizing you to go and speak on our behalf to the task force? We're not requiring you to come back, right, with a statement?
No, the motion's authorizing me to speak. I'm gonna bring something back. We just are gonna have it.
So I'd like to actually recommend, and, see if, I'd like to recommend that you work with the vice chair and that you not come back. And I think we trust you to deliver that and, that you give it to us after the fact. I think there's some tactical, all tactical advantages should be retained.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me, and I concur that, yes, that we not share that Rich and I will work together to formulate.
Make Rich look really smart.
Yes, we will do that. Wordsmith.
Wordsmith. Mark, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that. I wouldn't put that in the motion, but I'm fine with that.
No, we're not. The motion is that we're gonna just go with the original motion that
Or
authorized me to, the amended motion, I'm sorry, not the original.
Perfect.
Okay, Dwight, are you good with that? Okay, if you guys are all set, then all in favor, say aye.
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 It appears though it's a unanimous vote of ayes. The vote's unanimous, so we're all good. So I just said you want to start writing, then I'll look at it. Okay, then the last thing is under old business, River Valley Learning Academy for Thanksgiving break. So if you all remember a few meetings ago, we talked about how wonderful the summer program was. And that's one of the things that Matt and Tammy talked about at the retreat. And then, I don't know if you say anything about us doing it through the year, but we talked about during the breaks, instead of losing students, that we could try to do this again. So you were gonna see what you could pull together.
Ready?
Yep.
So we started looking at this idea of the Vacation Learning Academy for River Valley students, which would offer some academic time during breaks, essentially. So we've discussed it a little bit with our Dover after school coordinator, and so the possibility exists. The next step for us is to administer a survey to our families to see what kind of usage such a program might get, and then we have to see if we can find a teacher to run the academic program, see the scope, how many students are we talking. So that's where we are now, is still in the sort of exploratory phase, but we have outlined some dates, and we're looking at the Thanksgiving week, Monday through Wednesday, the week between Christmas and New Year's, that whole week, the February break 21st through March 2nd, and then the April break 18th through the 22nd. Those are the potential days for a grand total of 20 student days in that time. So that's what we're looking at this point. There's no firm information to report. We should have some more information about the family surveys that'll be going home to Wardsboro and Dover families in the next week or two, and then we'll figure out if we can find a human to do the teaching part. Yes?
Would it be available to all student ages, like starting in pre-K3, pre-K4, all the way up through the sixth graders, or what ages would it be able to encompass?
It's a good question. If we do open it up to pre-K students, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, but we would be required to adhere to the pre-K regulations. So I haven't really looked at that at all yet. At this point, I'm just thinking K through 6. But, you know, it's something we could certainly.
Yeah, and that's what we did
chat
this
about.
summer too.
Yeah, it's K through 6 this summer. Yeah. But it wouldn't be out of the question. It's just something we'd have to look into in terms of the regulations. A little different, regulations for pre-K groups.
Yeah, I would love it if you guys could look into that. I know it adds a whole layer of complexity, but just
Well, we
just explore.
could do two separate programs too, couldn't we? We could do maybe a shorter program for pre-K.
But we can see what the demand is like too. So when we do the survey, we'll
Include
collect.
the group.
Yeah, we'll make sure we survey the pre-K families and collect that info. Yeah. Cool. Anything else to add?
I don't think so, I think you got it.
Chad, you got anything?
Not tonight.
Oh, I guess I just would add, Matt and I will also look into the possibility of using some of the ESSER funding that could be available to fund the program, so there would not be a fee associated that we would pass on to families.
Anybody up there? Laura, Dwight, or Mark?
Nope.
Okay.
You want to get Scott to tell us his last name. He's relatively.
Oh, Scott is the selectman.
Oh.
Scott, are you the selectman?
Selwyn?
Salwin, yeah. Thumbs up.
Yes.
So
I'm
Scott,
just here listening.
so Scott's the select board, Dover select board liaison to the school board. So if we want to do anything or have anything, that's who we go to. So thank you, Scott, for popping in.
Could we have a last?
I love that. I love the last idea, that like extra, like helping school thing. That's awesome.
I was gonna ask for a last name.
L-W-A-Y, Sally.
Sally?
S, you got it, Peter?
Yeah, I remember that. Also, who is the BCTV camera person?
Oh, you gotta say your name on TV, I won.
Peter as well. It's Peter from the retreat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, couldn't hear it.
Peter,
Yes.
It's Peter Callahan from the retreat.
Same as last week, Peter?
last.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
Callahan.
Yeah.
Gotcha, thanks.
Just back to this thing, so I wasn't sure that you were gonna be able to pull it off at all. So if you are able to, you know, I didn't know if you were gonna use like Thanksgiving, a couple days of Thanksgiving just for a trial. But yeah, anything that we need to do, I mean, I think it's a pretty important program. I know that you guys spoke a lot about it, but I also know giving the staff, you know, some mental health time off is important too. So it just, you know, whatever you guys need, just please, you know, bring it to the board. I think everybody on the board was in agreement that we felt it was a good thing. It sounds like a positive educational thing. So just, I think, you know, we're here to support you however we have to support you guys.
Great, thank you.
And Katie even volunteers for that preschool part. She'll come in and do one of the days. She'll herd up the little kids.
So I did have to do some, during the remote learning week, I had a number of students I actually had 2 different classrooms, and I can say that our teachers, yeah, they do phenomenal work, because managing 2nd graders, pre-K students, and kindergartners all at the same time was definitely very challenging to keep them all motivated and directed, for sure.
Just so, I don't know if people know, Scott was a teacher in the middle school, Scott, down in Twin Valley.
Yeah, we did this.
And-
Sorry. We ran this, I actually did this with the kids, like, over a couple of breaks. I taught it. Stayed with some kids and helped them get caught up. It was really good. And it was like a little bit more relaxed and some individualized stuff. And, yeah, it was great. I think it's an awesome idea. I'm glad you guys are doing it. Griff's gonna be there. I think I answered your question. I'm not sure. I couldn't quite hear you. Sorry. Got a lot going on over here.
No, I just mentioned that you had been a teacher for a while and your wife was teaching, and that was it. The other thing, Kate was just saying how, you know, she did some of the stuff during the shutdown, and it's very challenging. And I used to do DARE in the schools, and we only had a 1-hour class, and the worst she ever did was 5 classes in a day. We run around from schools, and I felt the same way. I mean, I went home and I was exhausted. I'm like, you know, because trying to keep the kids interested in what you're doing and not lose them, and I mean, it's not easy work. So, you know, I've got a real appreciation for especially the teachers of the younger kids to keep them on focus. It's not easy. So anything we can do to help you. Peter and then Laura. Where's Laura's hand come from before?
Oh, sorry, false alarm.
Okay, Laura, you good?
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest to Scott that maybe he wants to sign up to testify.
I think the email, I saw an email go to him from somebody.
I sent it to Vic.
A gentle nudge with an email or a link or something wouldn't hurt. To help remind me.
Mark, can you
Yes.
do that? Get that to Scott?
Yes, I'll be in touch with you.
Roger.
Thank you for the idea, Laura.
If we're all done with the stuff for you guys, anybody else with old business? No executive session, is it, Matt? Okay, hey, I hate to tell you guys this, but we're supposed to be here at 7:45, so we either have to kill another 15 minutes or somebody has to say those magic words.
I will make a motion to adjourn at,
Oh, wait,
7:27.
hang on one sec. Next meeting,
October 18th?
and Wyndham Central meeting is October,
I don't have that one.
I don't
See if I
either.
can look it up.
Yeah. We have a Wyndham Central meeting. Mark, do you remember the date?
November 3rd, I
That's
believe.
right.
Yeah, isn't there an October one for the executive committee?
The executive committee is October 28th, I believe.
I thought it was.
I have the 21st.
Yeah, I think it's the 21st. We'll make sure, Peter, we'll make sure we get that to you so you can put that in the minutes.
It'll be in the SU calendar, I think.
Yeah. that's
Yeah.
what I'm looking at.
Oh, okay, it's what date?
21st.
Okay, that's the 21st, but we may be switching that around. Bill made us, there was a couple suggestions after the retreat, so just pay attention to that. And then what was our meeting?
Is that, just a quick question, is that the weekly updates that you're talking about?
No, there's an executive committee meeting that we usually meet to discuss compensation,
All
but
right.
we're gonna come in to discuss the policies.
All right, so there's executive committee weekly
November
update
20th.
on the 21st.
Well, there's one of those every Thursday.
Okay, then there's executive committee meeting budget.
Yep,
That's Wednesday, the 27th.
okay, the 27th, Mark. Peter, the 27th. Oh,
Rich,
yes,
policy committees meeting Thursday at
11 a.m.
11.
okay. Hey, one last thing, guys, I'm really sorry, I messed up. We didn't reorganize the entire board, but we should reorganize who's gonna be our reps to Wyndham Central. So it had been Mark, myself, and Rick. And then last meeting, we asked Dwight to fill in for the one meeting. I don't know, Dwight, do you have any desire to be the third person?
Possibly. Is it normally the vice chair, or does anyone can serve?
No, usually it's anybody.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
I will nominate Dwight.
Oh, Mark, nominate 3.
I will nominate Dwight, Rich, and Mark.
Second,
I second.
Peter, Kate seconds it. Is there any discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That's quick.
Cool,
Hey,
okay.
Richard,
Yes, Laura?
you should invite Chad to go, even though he's not a voting rep, just so he has a sense of like.
Yeah, don't scare him off too early. Don't give him too many meetings.
Give me those 3 names again. Sounded like Rick was one of them.
Rich.
Rich.
Oh, thanks.
Me. Yeah, Chad, it isn't a bad thing to go even if you don't get to vote. And then if we know, like if Dwight says he can't make it, then we can appoint an alternate.
Right.
And then that way we've got 3 votes so that sometimes it makes a difference. Okay. So if you guys are all set, Kate, I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn at 7:30 p.m.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Bye.
Even though we don't have to
Thanks,
vote.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.